Hey, this is the Black Advice channel. So what I want to talk about today is a topic that's very controversial in the Black community, but as you can see from the title of this video, needs to be discussed, which is a topic of why we as Black people are our own worst enemy. Now, this is very controversial. Some people say it's white people, some people say it's Black people, and this and that, and so on and so forth. And obviously, looking at it from a logical perspective, it's a bit of both. But like anything in the world, you realize there has to be something that it's more of than the other of. And in this case, it's no different. And what that is, of course, is why us Black people hold ourselves down, are responsible for holding ourselves down more than whites are responsible for holding ourselves down. And that's what I'll be discussing for this video and giving you reasons why that is the truth. So let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of why we as Black people are our own worst enemy, it simply comes down to the fact of simply using logic and looking at the world from an honest perspective, okay? When it comes to obviously how the world works, fundamental, which is money, okay? So when it comes to something like money, one thing I have clearly noticed, and everyone has noticed, obviously, when it comes to Black businesses, which of course make money, is that they tend to do absolutely freaking terribly, in all honesty. That's the truth of the matter about Black businesses. They tend to do absolutely horribly. And obviously businesses is something we need to have, because obviously everywhere because obviously we suffer from discrimination everywhere. So obviously if we're not having businesses, whether it's in the African diaspora nations or nations directly in Africa, then you are gonna quickly realize, yeah, it's kind of our own fault as a community overall, more than it is the fault of white people, because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to obviously making a community powerful, is them being able to generate money so they can build themselves up. But obviously, as you can already tell, Black businesses tend to be absolutely horrible at doing a good job for many different things, whether it's a sedentary job, where you go to them or they go to you, whatever you like to say. They tend to do an absolutely horrible job at it, okay? So that's simply the truth of the matter, okay? And this is not just something, as I already got at before, that is something that just happens in the African diaspora, which we tend to hear all the time in America, particularly. Black businesses are doing terrible. Black businesses are doing absolutely horrible, blah, 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 blah. You hear it so much, it's actually ridiculous. But the truth of the matter is, it's not even just simply in the African diaspora, it's also in Africa too. Because that's one of the biggest things that is actually holding the Black community down, and why we experience so much discrimination, so much shit, is because a lot of Black people, when you actually give them the opportunity, once you free them from oppression to actually do something, they do an absolutely effing horrible job at it, okay? They actually do, when you look at it. You look at it, and for that reason, why they do such a terrible job is the reason why we have so much crime and a lot of things go on all over the place, in all honesty, because of that exact reason. And when it comes to that particular issue, in all honesty, okay, that is the truth of the matter. That's why we tend to do so absolutely horrible at everything that why things tend to go so bad for us when we run our own communities. And no perfect example of that in the face of the world is South Africa. South Africa, when apartheid ended, was clearly a first world nation, But ever since the ANC has taken over and stuff, they've completely fallen apart. Now, of course, you have things like the IMF and so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. Yes, that is true. But when you look at it, actually, when you actually look at the facts, you know, for South Africa particularly, you realize, no, it's actually, in that case, it's more actually the black people who are not doing a good job than it actually is the white people's fault in this case. Because every time you look at the black businesses and stuff that they set up, they do an absolutely freaking horrible job at everything that they do. They don't show up early on time to things. They expect too much money, you know, when you tell them to do things, and a whole load of crap that you can see exactly the reason why we are so freaking poor. And the thing about it is, a lot of these issues that are there are so easy to resolve, it's not even funny. I'd literally go as far as to say discrimination against black people would be literally 40-50% less bad if these people actually, you know, did a good job. You know, or I should say, in other words, they didn't do these things. But they do these things, so as a result of them doing these things, it's the reason why we don't freaking get anywhere. And why we simply have to rely on black celebrities to, of course, be our representatives instead of representing ourselves. It's as simple as that. It's because these people do a shitty job. And as a result of doing a shitty job, we look back at ourselves, you know, and we start to wonder, are we all kind of dumb? Which is not true at all, because these issues are clearly very easy to resolve if you educate people properly and obviously get the right people. But the truth of the matter is, that has yet to be done, so we see what the results of it are, you know, in all honesty. So the truth of the matter is, we can absolutely become free. We absolutely can become free and do a lot better. It's just that we need to cut out the crap that happens in the black community. So when it comes to the topic of we are our own worst enemy, it is absolutely true. We are our own worst enemy. And it's simply the truth of the matter. And it's also, even when you look, even aside from economics, it's even just simply down to Africa and African history. We're always fighting each other over something, in all honesty. Particularly West Africa. Oh God, dear God, for that matter. We're always fighting each other over something. And even when you look at the history of Africa, the Europeans only were able to be successful, which of course they're going to see a lot of bullshit that's not true and blah, 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 blah. But the truth of the matter is, even when you look at the history books, every time Africans had legit resistance, aside from the 1800s, they actually fought against the Europeans and they're actually unified. They did very well. Every single time, they actually killed more of the opposition than they actually lost fighters themselves, which I have noticed. I'm not BSing here. This is actually true, you know. But the truth of the matter is, you know, that is not really overall our history. Our history is mostly fighting ourselves, and that's why the Europeans won, because we were so busy fighting ourselves, we couldn't even resolve it. So that's history right there. Not to mention, you know, obviously all the horrible African leaders they've had, that have taken away the rights of people and stuff, and so on and so forth. And obviously all the black people who work as, you know, who work to undermine their own community with the paycheck of white people, you know, because obviously it's easier for you to hide who you are when you look like the person, and when obviously the person is clear as day is not one of you. It's common sense. So we definitely are our own worst enemy. So that's the truth of the matter, and that should answer your question straightforward right then and there. We are our own worst enemy. So anyway, that's my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video and like videos like this, remember to thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And that is all, and simply put it, later.